welcome to Is Anybody Listening to Me podcast with Azar and the Meat. We're here today hiding out from the coronavirus in Lou Studios bunker. We're just trying to stay safe. Roper Studios is potentially contaminated, so we're just going to stay away from Roper for a while.
Stay clear.
Yeah. we don't know where he's been, so we're just going to stay away from his facility until further notice. But I'm here with my partner, Big Meat. Let me welcome him in. What's going on?
Hey, well, you know what? We're going to try to get all of our listeners to get through this era of the coronavirus before it turns into the zombie apocalypse here. But so far so good. I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
You look like you're feeling good.
I am, but I'm happy to keep you seated on the other side of
That's right.
Completely
We
opposite
are.
of me.
We should be wearing masks while we're doing this one.
Well, you know what? I did bleach and decontaminate the entire area before you arrived, and I'll probably doing it right after you leave. I don't want any big meat virus, because God knows that will jump.
That's right. And we got our microphones in front of us. We don't want to pull a Rudy Gobert and start touching the microphones. So,
but that was the highlight of my day, was seeing that clip of
yeah,
him
I
being
did.
such a jerk about
yeah.
it, and then touching everything like an ass, and then comes down with the disease 2 days later.
That is true.
So,
I think now, it would be crazy if you start hearing some of the reporters of those microphones now start testing positive because of it.
the Celtics players, aren't they being quarantined somewhere because?
Oh, I'm sure they played against them Friday.
I heard someone they were in Milwaukee. Is that? I have to check the news.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they are, but there was a second player of the Utah Jazz that got as
he played in 5
now.
different games, I think, before he got diagnosed. So
and that's the thing with this whole scare. I mean, the media, they're sensationalizing it, and it's making it turning it into a very, very big deal, which I can understand, because like when people start joking around like Rudy Gobert did, and then it just comes back to bite everybody. So you kind of have to play it safe and do what you can to protect yourself. Young guys like us, Azar, we're probably not going to get affected by it all too much if we ended up catching it. However, there is that true story about how the older generation, they are suffering from it. If you're over 80 years old, I mean, the fatality rate is much higher than somebody who's younger. So my dad, who's turning 80 next month, if I happen to catch it and I want to go over and see my dad, it's like I can't. That's the scary part about it, is that it could spread so quickly. So I don't blame the NBA season being suspended, or NHL now. I heard that today as well. Yeah. I think everyone's just playing it safe.
Yeah, no,
which makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a short period. But the Celtics are coming back today. They have been asked to self-quarantine. So all the Celtics players are being... I mean, if you think about how close these guys play against, or how close they play next to each other, they sweat next to each other. I mean, it's pretty gross, like how much contact there is, if you think about it. And if you're sick and you're just spreading that all over the place. So it's pretty nasty.
Well, we're here to get everybody through it. So
yes.
If you are self-quarantined in your home and you got nothing else to do, tune in, listen to our podcast. We'll get you through it.
Yeah, and as you're going to the market, loading up on toilet paper, because there was a mad dash, just as you're grabbing your beer and toilet paper to get you through the quarantine.
I actually went to Target the other day to buy toilet paper, not because I was trying to stock up, it's because I really needed toilet paper. And I was worried that I was going to get to the aisle and be like, there's going to be none left. But there was actually plenty. I was thinking, everything you're hearing is everyone's like stocking up on it. But I went, there was tons of toilet paper.
Yeah.
So there I am, like walking with a big thing of toilet paper to the register, and everyone looking at me like, hey, stocking up, huh? Like, no, I just need toilet paper.
Look at me. I need to wipe. Yeah, it's crazy. I actually bought some, and then I was in Hannaford buying some extra stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I will pick up another package. If it's such a big deal, people running out. There was this woman just staring at the empty shelves, and she looks at me, she goes, this is insane. And she wasn't kidding. Everything, even like the individual rolls, were gone. Everybody took everything out of this Hannaford. So I don't know if there's any diarrhea associated with this virus, but for God's sakes, like, what is up with the toilet paper?
It's the essentials. I went also to Home Depot to buy Lysol disinfectant wipes.
Yeah.
And there were none on the shelf, and I looked up, and like on the top shelf, I see a box of them. So I find a ladder, one of those. I pull it over.
Big
I'm
orange
climbing up
ladder.
there. I'm like, they're hidden up here. Like they're not going to be up here for too long because people once they see they're up there, so I had to climb up the ladder to go get them. But it is kind of insane. It is. Everyone's just going crazy. And like I said, this is just the next step into the zombie apocalypse.
Apparently.
Which would be fantastic.
Now, what I'm confused about the Clorox wipes and the Lysol wipes, they sell Lysol in a bottle. You just have to get paper towels. You don't need a Lysol. I was confused by the need.
Yeah.
Like, why can't I just use a spray bottle?
I think it's just more convenient.
So we're having a mad dash because people don't want to be inconvenienced to actually spray first and then wipe.
Well, in case you run out of toilet paper, you go wipe your ass with the disinfectant wipes.
No, you got to disinfect your ass too. It's just insane. I don't know. And then I heard people having strategies on how to make their own. That's where I got crossed the line. If you're gonna make your own, all right, we've jumped.
Make your own what? Toilet paper?
No, wipes.
Oh.
No, not toilet paper.
I was gonna say people walking around in diapers. I got a bunch of Depends in the basement. I'll just pull those out. I don't need any toilet paper.
No, I'm gonna cut my Bounty into little thin strips and just make my own rolls now.
Just invest in a bidet and you'll be all set.
Oh yeah, there you go. So as we get through the apocalypse, we wanted to at least recommend a new beer for you to enjoy while you're trying to survive. And Big Meat brought this tasty treat. It actually, I think we've on a dessert beer kick lately because these are all sweet, like dessert beers, right? I would say.
Yep. That is true. We
but this one is
sweetness.
actually an ale. And so what Big Meat brought us was a beer called, it's not very masculine.
Love the name. Love it.
But it's called Sticky Toffee Pudding Ale.
Love it.
And it's by Wells Brewery, which is the same brewery from what you tell me as Eagle Brewery.
Yes. So it was strange from the last podcast we did the banana bread beer, and it was, you saw the brewery name on it. It was from the Eagle Brewery. But then when I Googled banana bread beer, I saw another bottle that had the same exact logo and it said Wells Brewery. And this is where this is from, the Wells and Young's Brewery. I did a little bit more research and found that it is now officially called the Eagle Brewery, formerly the Charles Wells Brewery. So the Eagle Brewery is the updated one. These bottles that we're drinking out of right now still says Wells Brewery. But it is now the Eagle Brewery. And again, out of the UK, brewed in Bedford, United Kingdom. And like you said, it's another dessert beer or drink that we've been having. And this is actually pretty good. I like this one better than the banana bread beer.
It is better. And something that as a tip, if you do start investing in these beers to sample them, what we've noticed is these type of beers, I think especially like these British beers, I think most people know like Guinness, you're not supposed to drink ice cold. It's supposed to be more closer to room temperature, not total room temperature, but just slightly chilled. And what we're finding with these type of beers is kind of the same thing. If you don't get them too cold, you can kind of get them just under room temperature. You actually can smell more of the flavor on the beer, and they actually taste more flavorful. So as a recommendation, if you do try them, don't over chill them. When we first sampled the banana bread beer with Big Meat and I, he slightly chilled it, and you could really taste the flavor. And I actually ended up having one that I left in the garage and it was cold, really cold, and it tasted really bland. And it really has. I think these flavors can really come out if you get them at closer to room temperature, just like this. And if you like toffee, the best thing I can say to describe is if you're someone like me who likes the Heath bars, the toffee Heath bars. Candy bar, that's actually kind of what it tastes like. It's not chocolatey, but if you do enjoy toffee, that's the flavor that comes out of this thing. So it's good. Again, is it something I drink all night? I don't know. No, I can have a couple of them, but
it's a good little aftertaste after drinking it.
Yeah,
you definitely could taste the beer in it. It's not.
Yeah, it's a beer. Yeah, but you taste the toffee. I mean, definitely you can taste the flavor.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I think your assessment too with not having it too chilled, it is true. I'm thinking the same thing applies to wine. Like when you're drinking wine, you're not supposed to drink wine cold. It's supposed to be like room temperature, so you could actually taste
Well,
I don't know. We're not. I'm not
we're
a
not
big
wine
wine
experts,
drinker.
yeah.
No.
But
That's for another
there's
podcast
another
in the
one.
future.
I know red wines. You're supposed to do that. You don't want to chill a red wine
Right.
because you want the flavor to come out. Not an expert on that, but I definitely would say.
But I think it's
these
the
type of beers-
same reasoning, right? I mean, it's the same, so you can actually taste the red. You can actually taste the wine.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's why maybe because I had you try that Young's chocolate stout and you didn't really like the flavor of it, and I was kind of surprised, but it was over chilled. I think that's because I took it out of the
Yeah.
garage for you.
Yeah.
I wonder because when I first had it, it wasn't as cold, and I remember like tasting the chocolate flavor, and it tasted just like that chocolate beer that we had down in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is probably as close to that chocolate
Mhm.
beer I had in Orlando. So it's probably my fault. I gave it to you over chilled.
Yeah, I remember it was just okay. I wasn't that blown away by it. But if you like Guinness, and I've never really been a big fan of Guinness, but the last time I actually had a Guinness, I actually kind of enjoyed it. I think I had it at last St. Patrick's Day last year, and I said, "Oh, it's actually not as bad as I thought it was."
Oh, Guinness is wonderful. It's one of my favorite beers.
Yeah, and like I don't know, I tried it at a bar, and I was like, whatever. When in
Yeah.
Rome, just have it. And I was like, oh, this actually isn't that bad. So if you like Guinness, I think you would like this ale. So
but there is a Guinness that came out on the market called Over the Moon Guinness. I sent you guys a picture of it. It's new. It's that I think it's like a milk. I forget. I'll have to bring out the can. Just don't try it. Don't try it. It
Not
is
good.
not good. I have been forcing the 6-pack just to get rid of it.
okay.
So stick with the original Guinness. This it's the Over the Moon. It's in a blue can. It's not even cheap to get for a 6-pack. Just avoid it. That's my only advice to you. But yeah, so let's go using our third man's scale of 15.
Mm-hmm.
So based on price, what was the overall price for a 6-pack?
It was the
Or
same.
is it a 4-pack?
It was the 4-pack. It was the same thing as the banana bread beer, about $12.
Okay, so they're
For a
kind of
4-pack,
pricey
yeah.
for a
Yeah.
4-pack. Okay.
Yep, and if you see them, you go to a liquor store, you could see them. You know, if you can ask, go take me to the British section, and then that's where they will be. You'll see the banana bread, and then you'll see the sticky toffee ale right next to it.
Okay.
Sorry, sticky toffee pudding ale.
I have a feeling this is like the banana bread beer. It's going to probably end up at the same score out of 15 because the cost pretty much drops it down to a 2 from a cost perspective. From a flavor, I want to give it actually above a 3. I think it's more like a 4. I really enjoy the flavor of this beer.
It's a good flavor. I do.
Okay.
I like it better than the banana bread.
And drinkability, I could probably drink this, but again, I don't know if I could drink I would want to drink it all night. I mean, it's got a 5% alcohol, so you're not going to get super drunk on it super fast like some of these microbrews. But I don't know if I'd want to drink this all night. I feel like after a couple, I'd want to switch to something else.
What did we say about the banana bread beer?
Same thing.
Did
It
we
was
give
like
it a 3.
We gave it like a 3 for drinkability.
So it's better than average. Could we go 2.5? Right
we
down
could
the
do
middle.
2.5. Why not?
Right down the middle.
It's our scoring system, so who the hell
Yeah.
cares?
Well, then in that case, I think it should be 2.6.
Okay.
A little better than average.
Okay. Well, that's interesting because you gave it the banana bread a little bit higher, and I think I'd rather drink this more than the banana bread all night.
I would. So I take back my banana bread score. I give that a 2.4.
Yeah,
2.4, and this one's a 2.6.
Okay. All right. So either way, we're bordering. So if you do the scoring here, I think it's almost the same score, but now because of John's decimal system, it's just under basically like a 9 in the scoring system. So 9 out of 15 score, I think, is fair.
Yeah.
But
and the fact that it's a pudding ale, as you know, I love my pudding. So pudding it's kind of a funny story. Was an old, short-lived nickname of mine. Back at a previous guy. Well, it sticks with a couple of people. In fact, there was actually people that we used to work with that never knew what my name was. They just knew me as Pudding. They still to this day, I don't think they know what my name is. And it all started because I think I bought a package of pudding at the supermarket. I said, I'll just bring these in for lunch. I'll pull it out and I'll eat pudding as a little snack. And I pull out the pudding, and of course, Azar was there working there with me at the time.
right.
And he looked over and he said, "Wow, you like pudding?" And I said, "I don't know. It's pudding. Of course, it tastes good. I don't know." I think it was like the only package of pudding that I've ever had in my life. I don't think I've actually eaten pudding since that time. Yet I've been stuck with this nickname of Pudding ever since then. But I prefer meat. Meat is a little bit manlier, I guess, than pudding.
Yeah, but I remember the reason pudding stuck so well is because one of our old counterparts, Erin, anytime you would say something stupid, she would say, "Oh, pudding," and she would just kind of be like condescending about it, and just it was meant more to kind of.
Oh, it's more of a dig.
It was more of a dig,
Oh,
like
all
just
right.
like almost like you're a special needs kind of individual. Like, oh, like he's eating his pudding, like a little guy. It's probably not as. It wasn't intended to be like a masculine, like something
No,
that
no.
we're proudly. Let's
No,
put it that way.
no. But like I said,
But I do forget about that though. Thank you for reminding me where
Yes,
that came from.
yes,
I could
of
not remember
course.
where it
Yeah,
originated.
that's what it
from.
was. It was from our previous company many years ago. It was probably like 12 years ago or whatever. I can't remember exactly.
Oh, more than that. That was back in
15 years ago?
Flair days.
Yeah. Yeah, 15. Yeah, probably 15, 16 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was going way back.
Oh, poor pudding.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably wanted to keep that to yourself. That thing kind of went away for a while.
It did.
Yeah,
It
so
did.
now that's going to be coming raging back into
But
fashion.
again, I might have to just edit that part out in the post editing
Oh,
stage.
well, I'll make sure it gets spread out and reminded as many times as possible. All right, so we're going to move away from our Wells Sticky Toffee Pudding Ale. It is a tasty beer. Again, if you're just looking for different things to try while you're locked down in quarantine, this is a good recommendation from us. We did enjoy it. I would avoid the Blue Moon. Like I said, Over the Moon beer. just whatever you do.
Blue Moon.
I mean, not Blue Moon. The Guinness Over the Moon, whatever the heck this is called. It just sucked. Just avoid it. Anyways, all right. Let's move on to entertainment. So now that you're in quarantine, you're probably like, I need a show to watch because I'm stuck and I have nowhere to go.
Mhm.
So one of the shows that we've talked about, I think we mentioned it in one of the podcasts that we were going to start looking into it because we've heard because it was with Al Pacino.
Yeah, the last one.
So, you know, right there, just knowing Al Pacino was involved in something, just like The Irishman, when you see certain names, it's going to make you go to that show. The Hunters with Al Pacino is a show that is on Amazon. It is Amazon Prime. What is that called? Amazon
Prime.
Yeah, Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that
or just
service
Prime.
and you were thinking about getting it and what show you'd want to watch on it, I would recommend, if you haven't gotten it, I would recommend Amazon Prime for this show. It's actually that good of a show. I really enjoyed it. And not just because it has Al Pacino, just the premise of the story. So this is where you need our third man in because it does bring in a little bit of the history from World War II. It does basically the story.
More of a World War I expert.
Yeah, he's a World
based
War.
on
But you know,
couple
if he
podcasts
was here
ago.
right now, he would tell you he's more of a World War II expert.
Okay.
But
Okay.
but the premise is that it involves Nazis that escaped Germany and came to the United States and living in disguise in the United States. And there's this team of survivors of the Holocaust that basically are now trying to hunt these people down. So it's set in the timeline of the 70s, I believe, the early 70s.
Yeah, the late 70s.
Is it late 70s?
Yeah, like 1977.
Oh, that's right, because the Star Wars was one of the things
Yeah.
that guy was marking. So it was set in the late 70s.
And I don't think all of the the whole group, they're not all survivors.
The core.
Some of them are younger, they couldn't, I don't know how they came about
Yeah, there's going to be more to the
part
backstory.
of the Hunters team. Yeah. I'm 6 episodes in. I'm on my 7th episode. I think you said you've gone through 4 episodes.
Yeah.
There's a couple things that happen in the next episode. So this is a spoiler-free review. We won't try to spoil anything on it. But yeah, it is it is a good show. The first episode was great.
Hooks you in.
It definitely hooks you in, and
Yeah.
it was a long episode. It was an hour and a half. I was like, geez, like when is this?
But you don't
first
feel
episode
like
gonna
it.
be
It
over?
actually, like...
No, it kept you definitely engaged.
Yeah.
I want to say since that first episode, it's gone a little downhill. It hasn't been as engaging as that first one.
Interesting.
And there are some. My one big criticism of it is it's inconsistent in its tone. Like there's one scene where you're watching it and you're like, okay, wow, this is like intense. It's like you're watching a scene from like Saving Private Ryan
Yeah,
when they have like the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Some of it's pretty like disturbing, kind of
Yeah.
like, oh man, like that's like did that really happened
Yeah.
like back then. And then it cuts to a scene where it's a little bit like a comedy, and you're like, all right, that tone just kind of changed like all of a sudden.
I don't understand that part of it.
And then they get into like a part. It's almost as if you're watching like now it's switching to like a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
Like I feel like when I'm watching, I'm like, I feel like this is what Quentin Tarantino does with his movies.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it was just the tone was very inconsistent throughout.
Do you think it's because the storyline is so heavy? I mean, when you start going into the Holocaust and going into the concentration camps and what was done to the people, it's pretty disturbing. Like, and I don't even know if those are real things that happened or they're just. But regardless,
they're embellishing it a
yeah,
little bit.
because but when you watch it, it's so disturbing.
Yeah.
And gut wrenching to watch, like to think, because I mean, it grounds you, like, oh my God, these poor people, what they went through at that time. And I wonder if they're like, this is so heavy, maybe we just need to kind of like lighten it up the mood a little bit, because it's only like, I know what you're talking about. There was a scene when all of a sudden they just started dancing, like they don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, or like they do like this comic book thing, like introducing the characters, like a comic book.
Yes.
And to me, it's like, I think it's just almost try to break the tension. Like, we know this is heavy.
Yeah.
Because it does involve scenes of torture and things like that.
Yeah, some of it's pretty, like, I mean, I don't know if it's like, it's a little graphic. I guess you could say it's a little graphic. Not like gory graphic. But
yeah, it's not overly gory.
Yeah, it's just kind of disturbing.
But it's
kind
disturbing.
of things where you're just watching and you're like, oh, damn, like that's harsh. But yeah, though, like those scenes, exactly what you said, like watching it, like, oh, that doesn't seem like it flows with what the show's about. And
especially with the topic itself, like, you really want to be making fun? Like, is this the time to start joking about something?
Yeah.
But when
some of the characters are a little over the top too. Like, there's that one guy that's like, he's like the comedy relief. Yeah. It's just, I mean, I don't mind the humor in it. I like to keep it a little bit light and fun at times. It's just the tone of the show is very inconsistent. It's almost as if it's directed by 3 different people. And like the first director says, okay, I'm going to take 1/3 of the episode, you take another third, and you take another third. That's what it seems like when I'm watching it.
But I think that's kind of like the new thing now, right? Because how many of these action movies, like this, like the Avenger movies or any of the Marvel movies, they always have like this comedy, and some do it well, and some don't do it as well. And and ever since, I think I always found like Guardians of the Galaxy had so much humor in it that it allowed you to kind of enjoy the movie's seriousness, but it kind of like was fun at the same time. And I've seen so many movies try to have that, and some of the movies just were awful at it. It's like, guys, give up.
Yeah. Some of them they go a little over the top. By the way, tell that person to stop calling you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know why it connects to my computer.
Don't they know we're trying to do a podcast here? God damn it.
You know what? I'm just gonna lower the volume so it doesn't do that anymore. You know, it's funny because I should learn this because I listen to so many podcasts, and it happens to some podcasts that I listen to. Yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah, you got to shut down your volume. What are you guys doing? And it keeps happening to me. Anyways.
Amateurs. That's what we're still going through the amateur stage.
But you know, it's so I'm wondering if it's just to break the tension. So if the show is good, but there are these scenes that they just kind of throw in, and I like I said, I think they're just trying to break the tension because how disturbing. Yeah. And it seems to follow like a disturbing thing.
Yeah.
It tends to follow it.
So. They're building up to something big. Like there's going to be a twist at the end. They're building up to some twists. And
is it 10 series, 10 episodes?
It's 10 episodes. And like I said, the first episode was an hour and a half. So far, every episode since then has been at least an hour. Yeah. Like an hour and 5 minutes. So for 10 episodes, it's a long season.
Yeah. But you know,
it's a lot of content.
It is a lot of content, but but I love the creativity of it because
I love the premise of it. Yeah, I love the whole thing where like they're hunting Nazis back in the 70s and you know, like there's Nazis being like they're hidden everywhere. Like people working in the government, there's people like they're everywhere. Yeah. And they're just out there trying to find them. And
you know what's good about the show? It's something that I loved about Game of Thrones that they were the best at doing. And there was a couple of the shows like Black Sails there was a show on Stars called Black Sails. The shows that can make you really hate a villain, get you sucked in with the villain, where you're now like kind of, you're watching this guy and you just can't wait for him to get his revenge on him. Yeah. And I find this show has people like that. Like there's that one young guy that's kind of like the hitman for the Nazis.
It's like those love to hate. Yeah. You know, you hate him as a villain, but you love him as a villain.
Yeah, because he's so good at it. Like he's so creepy as a villain, and you're like, oh man, he's got to get his. Mm-hmm. But he's so good at what he's doing that
Yeah.
it keeps you sucked in. So when he comes into the scene, you're like, oh, someone's gonna get messed up. Like
Yeah.
he's so like creepy like
And he's
that.
ruthless.
Yeah, and he reminds me of Ramsay. Is it Ramsay from Game of Thrones?
Ramsay. Yeah,
Ramsay from
yeah.
Game of Thrones. Like
Yeah.
every time you watched him, you hated him by the end because he would just torture. Like he didn't care if it was a pregnant woman or a
Oh
child.
yeah.
Like it
There
just
was no holds barred.
yeah.
with him.
And then you got to remember, well, yeah, they're Nazis. Like they don't care about kids. Like you almost think that they're gonna spare a kid or something, and you're like,
Mhm.
no, they don't spare kids. They're Nazis. They
Mhm.
kill everybody. So that's what I think is it's good about the show. It's not just the heroes. It's actually the villains get you sucked in. It's like the one in the opening scene that is like the plant. That's like an ex-politician, or he works as a politician,
Yeah.
and he has this accent, and then all of a sudden you find out he's a Nazi. He's
Yeah,
just like,
yeah. His name is Biff.
yeah.
His name is Biff in the show.
Yeah. So he's an interesting character.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he's evil, but he's kind of funny, and you're like,
Yeah, that is true. He's actually he's another one of the characters where he could be pretty ruthless.
Oh, yeah.
Too in that show. Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier too, like the tone of it. Another part of it that can be a little inconsistent is it does come off like a comic book movie sometimes. Like is it because they reference Batman in it?
Yeah.
They reference like is Batman a hero or is he a villain? He's
Yeah.
going out there or whatever. And so like there are parts of it. It's not a superhero show, but it kind of has that kind of feel of it. There's a team of people and they're going out there and they're acting like vigilantes and they're going out and hunting Nazis and so yeah, it's just kind of like on one hand, is it like you're watching kind of like this World War II Holocaust movie, a little bit of a documentary. I know how much you love documentaries, Azar.
Docudramas.
Docudramas. And then like the next minute it's like this weird like comedy, and then the next minute it's like a comic book movie. It's just like I said, it's I guess that part of it is not bad because it does keep you a little engaged in it because you're not bored with watching the same thing. But overall, it's definitely a show I would recommend. You definitely need to watch it.
If they turn it into a movie or a serious drama, it would be still an awesome show. I think I'm not sure why they decided to go with this kind of creativity with it, but I think maybe they probably realize there's so much content that maybe you got to be a little bit out of the box, trying to be creative, and that's kind of what makes the show interesting. It isn't it's a really creative idea, the topic or the story, but they're doing some things with the show to kind of make it even more like out of the box thing. And I guess if you want to be different,
you kind of have to do that.
Yeah. So I think they're just trying to stick out because again, how many other Nazi deep stories have already been out and made? Maybe they're just like, look, we've seen so many of these type of things. Why don't we just do a little bit of a twist? Because if you think about it, this whole concept of like Nazis living underground, well, you could just switch them with Russian agents. Like how many shows have done with sleeper Russian agents that are underground, people are chasing them, and like how many shows over the years we've seen.
I've heard somebody compare it. I've never seen the show, but I've heard it compared to that show Americans.
I was gonna say it's Americans,
because that was with the Russians.
So probably they're like, you know what? Why don't we just do a little twist so we're not copying a show that was successful, but all we're doing is basically taking their idea and switching them out with Nazis. So
and if you do like Al Pacino, I think Al Pacino's pretty good in this.
Yeah,
he plays a Jewish guy,
but his accent is so heavy.
His accent is very heavy. I was just gonna say you can't understand what he's saying sometimes. I used to always compare Pacino with De Niro, and I used to say, well, who's better? And I used to always think De Niro was like the better. He had more range. But now I'm thinking, looking back, I'm thinking Pacino has more range. I think, and I said this at the during the Irishman review. I said Al Pacino was the best character in that whole show. And in this show, he plays a really good Jewish guy. I mean, hey, he plays a Jewish guy. He's played a Cuban. Obviously, he's played an Italian. He's played an Irishman. Like, he has that kind of range, and he does keep you engaged. Like, I can't see Robert De Niro being in a show like this and be like, yeah, I'll play a Jewish guy with a really thick Jewish. I can't see him doing that successfully. But Pacino does pull it off.
Al Pacino's not like one of my top 3 favorite actors to watch. Like I think I do find him better than De Niro. I just do. I just find
now I do.
Like
now
when I remember like seeing him in Devil's Advocate, which took him out of like things that I've normally seen him in, and then you watch him in Devil's Advocate, and he plays the devil in that character, and he's like, I just find like his character is so compelling. Every time he's on, like, and he's doing like a monologue or something.
Another good Keanu Reeves movie, by the way.
Again, a movie that needed like a star power to make. It wasn't Keanu Reeves you watched it for. And you got to remember, Charlize Theron was in it too.
Which, by the way, Keanu Reeves, I mentioned it last time. I mentioned a bunch of movies that he's in, and he's been in a lot of good movies.
We're going to go back to Bill and Ted's again?
No, but you were just saying The Devil's Advocate. I did miss one movie that he was really good in, and it was one of my favorite sports movies of all time, The Replacements. Oh, Lord. That was a great sports movie.
Okay.
You've never seen The Replacements?
I've seen The Replacement, but we're talking about Al Pacino, and you're putting Keanu Reeves in this.
Well, there's a tie in there. You said Devil's Advocate, and I said, all right. By the way, Keanu Reeves. It was one of my notes that I had to bring up.
When you see Al Pacino do one of his monologues, like when he's in a scene, it's just him and he's talking, like when he's in Carlito's Way.
Yeah.
When he is, like in this show, The Hunters, when he's talking or Devil's Advocate, you get sucked in. You get sucked into him. Yeah. He's like such a great actor.
Just like you get sucked into when Sean Connery is on scene. You're psyched in.
Yeah.
Now they just need to make a movie with Sean Connery and Al Pacino, and Azar's head will explode.
I actually, at this point, you just want Sean Connery to just let it go. But speaking of Sean Connery, I think it's a perfect segue. I did see his replacement, the newest James Bond, Daniel Craig, star in that movie Knives Out, which was, I'm not going to go into a huge review of the movie.
Yeah.
But since you're speaking of it, so I
bring up Keanu Reeves, and you said, why are you bringing up Keanu Reeves? And now you want to talk about something else?
Because Daniel Craig is compared to Sean Connery's style of James Bond, like that classic, where Roger Moore and Pierce Brosnan, they were kind of like all over, like when they do James Bond, they didn't have that same style that Sean Connery did. They were good, but never like people compare him to Sean Connery. And Daniel Craig supposedly is like, which I was kind of shocked, like when they reviewed the rank the movies, the Daniel Craig movies actually came out highest ranked in the James Bond. But the point is, it's funny, is that he's this British guy, and then you watch Knives Out, and remember how in The Witcher I told you what's the point of a great actor having an odd accent? Like it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit his character.
Yeah.
You got to watch Knives Out. It's the most maddening thing to take a guy with a British accent that sounds smooth and give him a southern drawl. Why? Makes no freaking sense.
Miscast in that role.
And then the thing that makes it doesn't even fit his character. Like when you look at him, it doesn't even match him. And I think the thing is set in New England, so I don't even know why he had a southern accent. He's like this detective that comes from somewhere to investigate. So it's like a Scooby-Doo episode. Like it was like the board game Clue. I think you said it perfectly.
Yeah.
It was an okay movie. There's good stars in it. I mean, if you're looking for a red box, again, Under Quarantine, not a bad movie. But his voice was so maddening. Like, I kept on wondering, like, why would the director do this to the poor guy? Like, why would you make him talk this way? Like,
maybe they just wanted to have that wide range of different characters.
But they're not good at it. They don't sound good. Al Pacino, so going back, playing a Jewish guy with that accent, you would, like, Steph, my wife looked at me and goes, is he Jewish? I go,
yeah, he does play a good Jewish guy. Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. He's not Jewish, but he plays it so well.
Yeah.
Like you believe that he's actually a Jewish guy that survived the Holocaust. When you watch The Witcher, his voice didn't match him. When you watch this Knives Out, it's like, dude, it doesn't fit. Like, why didn't anybody like who's producing it or directing it stop and say, this isn't going
to work out? Well, I mean, I think, that's part of the whole casting too. Whoever the casting director is, when they bring a whole bunch of actors in and they say, all right, read a couple lines. Let's see. That it's really their fault.
But they told him, do it in a Southern voice. I want to see you, Mr. British James Bond voice. Do it in a Southern voice. Let's see if this really pulls this movie in. Like,
I don't know.
Sometimes, like, there's that like overthinking.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, we're not there to just figure out exactly why they hired him. Maybe he was the biggest name out there, and it was like, well, I want to do a movie with them, and I get this great role for you. You come in and talk like a Southerner.
He just couldn't wait to play with Jamie Lee Curtis. He had to have like, I'm gonna change my voice so I can be with Jamie Lee.
Oh, is Jamie Lee Curtis in it?
Yes, she is in it. It was actually pretty good. Chris Evans, Jamie Lee Curtis, so it was a pretty good cast. There was some good people in it. But it just amazes me, like, why people would do that. I don't know. But, it's just like when we gave the recommendation of Witcher, people, after they watched it, would come back to me and say, yeah, you're right about the voice. What's up with that voice? Mm-hmm. Or they'd say, yeah, I fell asleep too. Yeah, you're right. Watch Knives Out and tell me if the voice just doesn't... it wasn't a bad movie, but the voice just didn't make any sense in the
Yeah.
storyline. So
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm just saying.
you have a thing with people's with people's voices.
I just don't know why you do that.
It's the Nicolas Cage voice. It's got the
Poe again. Worst casting.
What was that movie?
Con Air.
Con Air. Yeah.
Poe didn't have. What was up with the accent with him? He didn't fit him. He
Yeah.
looked awful. Just because he wore this tank top wife beater, so they thought should have this southern accent. It did not fit.
Mhm.
He sounded, he actually was casted correctly for The Rock. He was this like spineless jellyfish FBI agent.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't need to have any fancy accent. Whatever, he fit the role.
And then they try to make him into some like southern badass in Con Air.
And you know what? He failed miserably at it.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie made Con Air was not him. Even though I love watching Con Air, it was not him. It's just I don't watch it to hear Poe.
Your hatred for Nicolas Cage.
But he's just a bad actor, an overactor. Daniel Craig is not a bad actor. I just don't understand the casting. Like sometimes you just see things, you're like, this makes no sense.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
But let's go to, pivot a little bit because we brought up docudramas, and I know you've been dying to talk about The Ottoman. So why don't you put us to sleep?
Ottoman.
I'm gonna take a sip of my beer, and you bore us with the side boob and whatever else.
I gotta tell you. Now I don't. You said, have you not watched it?
I've not watched
the first episode.
I'm in protest.
You couldn't be more wrong about this show. It was only a 6-episode season, 45 minutes each, so you could get through it pretty quickly. The first episode was very heavy with documentary. It went way less documentary the rest of the episodes. In fact, out of the 45-minute on average episodes, maybe 5 minutes of it were people jumping in and like talking. And there were some parts where they would show like a digital map of Constantinople and where they're coming in to try to penetrate into Constantinople. But there was a lot more action scenes, and it really kept going. And the whole season was about just them trying to get in and take over, and it did keep you engaged. I mean, you couldn't be more wrong. I said, in fact, I think the last time you were this wrong is when you thought Robert Woods was the best receiver on the Rams. That's the last time, or better yet, when you actually thought The Witcher was a good show. That's on the last time.
I told you
this
based
wrong.
on what I've seen in rankings. I didn't.
Ottoman was 10 times better than The Witcher.
Oh my god! All right,
10 times better. Than The Witcher.
and I only gotten through. I think I still have 45 minutes left.
There was no nudity. I did watch the whole season.
Right,
there was no nudity.
Strike one.
Except for maybe another side boob here and there. But like I said, it was way less of a documentary the rest of the season, and it gave a nice little history lesson, which I'm sure our third man in Jarvis would appreciate.
If I need a history lesson, like I said before, I would ask the third man. I would rather learn about trench warfare.
Well, does Jarvis really? Does he just like U.S. history? Does he just like the World War I and II?
Well, next time we see him,
Civil
we'll
War,
have an episode.
or would he be interested in the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire?
We'll have to ask him.
Good question to ask him.
Yeah.
He's not a big Game of Thrones fan. I know that for sure. He's teased us about Game of Thrones.
Yeah, well, shame on him. I mean, what does he know? if you don't like Game of Thrones, and the millions of people are all wrong, but Jarvis is right. Like, cause he's got to be right.
It's a true story. Game of Thrones, isn't it? Based on history.
Game of Thrones was by far one of the best shows ever created.
It was until the last season.
Until the fucking last season.
Yeah.
What a waste of time.
Yeah. Actually, I wouldn't even say the last season because it was a really short season.
It was
only 6 episodes. Yeah. There was a couple of episodes in there that were really good.
Actually, not even the end of it's not even the whole episodes Game of Thrones sucked. It was just like where the stories went just didn't make any sense. Like they had anyways. Yeah, I'll just get angry again.
We're going to go on a tangent with
and I need it because I'm under quarantine, so I can't go crazy. But,
But to go back, Hunters, just to wrap that up, definitely watch it. I think people would. I think you would enjoy, and because it's so varies throughout the tone of the show. I think a lot of different people that would usually like a show like that, or if they would enjoy it. I think they would enjoy it. There's always a little piece in there that I think people would take out and enjoy. It's just a long season. That's the only thing.
Yeah,
10 episodes, an hour each. The first one being an hour and a half. It's a lot, but.
But the nice thing about it, and I'll wrap up on this one, is that I found, like, I'm watching Castle Rock in parallel with The Hunters, and I found, and that's the Hulu original series, and I'm I'm finding myself not wanting to binge Castle Rock. Like if I finish an episode that's an hour long, I'm like, all right, I'll shut off. When I was watching The Hunters, I was actually left intrigued and wanted to keep going after that. So that's what I like about The Hunters, is that it's a show that kind of sucks you in, and you kind of want to see where the next episode was going with.
Yeah.
It. So because I like and I do want. There was one character we didn't talk about, was the FBI agent, the young black woman that's in it. That's the FBI agent investigating the thing. So she's
pretty good.
And she's like another part of the story that's like another angle of the story that he's another character you're following that has a different.
And she's getting more and more involved somehow, and you're trying to figure out exactly where that whole storyline is going.
Yeah, so she's an interesting. So definitely recommend The Hunters while you're under quarantine, fighting through the coronavirus. All right, so the last thing we wanted to touch on, because as everybody might know by this time this thing gets posted, all sports as we know it have been shut down. So we can't even talk fantasy. Drafts are done. We were going to do a March Madness bracket episode, and that's obviously shut down. So there are no sports. So we're going to have to go to the next best thing of gossip. And it's just because free agency starts in less than a week from the day we post this episode. So it's coming. And the big free agent that everybody's talking about that's all over the news, especially from New England, is the Tom Brady. Where is Tom Brady going? But I listened to some of the sports radio over the weekend, and it's interesting to me how some of the stories that you didn't hear over the season, and something that I brought up the last time, is he's not really built to develop receivers. I don't think he is. And
here comes the Brady bashing.
No, it's not Brady bashing. I just feel like he's at the point of his career, he wants plug and play. Throw me the best receiver on the market, like an Antonio Brown, that's talented. He's so good, he'll just jump and go get the ball. He's that good. Mm-hmm. Like a Randy Moss. When you hear stories from the course of the season that Tom Brady was not actually fully engaged in practice, like I was hearing over the weekend on sports radio, that there were reports that because of his elbow, he was actually taking a lot of time off to kind of rest his elbow. Because again, it's an age thing, but he was taking time off. So he was never really there working like Stidham was with the first string receivers. So it would explain why Tom Brady seems so off with his timing, so disconnected from his receivers in some of these games. So to me, a lot of the blame went on Belichick and the talent around him. But if your star quarterback isn't going to go to OTAs, is older and is more prone to injuries, and needs more time to rest and recover because he's got to cut back on his practices, can you really afford to have him out there?
So if those stories are true, then sure. Like, then I don't know how true those stories are. I just can't picture somebody like Tom Brady, who's played for 20 years, has had success with a lot of receivers who were not really that good, and he's made them better receivers than they really are, especially early on in his career. Guys like David Patton and David Givens and Deion Branch. And like, you didn't even say like Wes Welker, who was kind of like, he was kind of a nobody in Miami. And then he came to the Patriots, and all of a sudden he's catching over 120 passes a year. Edelman, it took him a little while, but I mean, hey, he was a 7th round pick. He was a quarterback. He was never even a receiver. So you're not going to be able to throw him in there. By his 3rd or 4th season, he was a great receiver for him.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the time for that. And if you think of recent history, his star receiver was Gronk and Aaron Hernandez at the time. Those were like generational tight ends that really carried Tom Brady's success in those years. So I can't think of like what receiver was really outside of like the Edelman and the Welker, who was just his slot receivers that.
Since like the last 5 years, you're saying? Because there were receivers before that. They just weren't putting up big numbers because they weren't good receivers.
But my point is now, like we're talking about like Tom Brady now moving forward. Like, but in the last 5 years,
but if you got a guy, right, 42, he'll be 43 this year. I mean, he's probably looking at it like, I don't have time to work with all these receivers. And it could be, it is it does hinder the progress of the receivers. It does hinder the Patriots organization. That I would agree with that. But I think at the same time too, I mean, he's had some success with who was it? Malcolm Mitchell, his rookie year. and he was throwing it. He had a really good Super Bowl. I think it was it Atlanta? Was that the Atlanta Super Bowl? Anyway, he was productive, and then he tore up his knee, and then he had to retire, and he's been done. So once in a while you get those receivers in there that he does have a decent connection with. I think if the receivers just doesn't have a lot of talent behind him, I think Tom Brady does get frustrated with them.
But again, you go back to that receiver. Brady was willing to go to OTAs and work with the young receivers, kind of start that process of development. New Tom Brady, the new family-oriented Tom Brady, isn't interested in going to OTAs to do that.
Yeah.
That's why, to me, the rumors, or when you hear like a team like Tampa Bay in the news recently is supposedly all in. They're going to make every effort to get someone like Tom Brady to play. I can see Tom Brady being Mike Evans. Yeah, why not? He's a talented receiver. He's a big physical receiver. They got Godwin. I don't know if they're going to keep the tight end on that Howard.
OJ Howard.
Yeah. Because he's a big tight end. He's a big physical tight end.
Yeah.
Never really made anything out of his career, but maybe just needs the right quarterback to make him a great tight end.
Yeah.
So
I just don't see him going to the Bucs, only because I don't think their offensive line is very good, and I think their defense is bad.
But they have so much money under the cap that they could beef up their offensive line.
They could.
And if they bring Tom Brady, they don't. I mean, you don't need you just need a basic. I mean, Bruce Arians can make anybody effective, and I think the team itself would be appealing, just because he doesn't have to build a receiver. The receiver's there. That's why the Tennessee option would be an interesting one, just because based on the talent of A.J. Brown, a big physical guy that Brady could just chuck the ball to.
Well, he did. I think there was that rumor saying that his two must-haves in free agency to the team he goes to. One, he wants to have a say in the roster, in the final roster. And two, he wants to have the final say in the play calling as well. The play calling I can understand. He's been around forever. You could just be like, hey, just go out there and just call the play that you want. The roster, you don't really hear all that much about players doing that. But I could see him saying, hey, I got 1 or 2 years left. Yeah, if I go to a team, and if it is the Bucs, I can see him saying they have a lot of money under the cap. There's a couple of free agents out there that I really like. Who's the Joe Tooney is a free agent. He was on the offensive line for the Patriots. I can easily see him say, hey, I'll come to you only if you sign Joe Tooney. I want him, protecting me as one of the guards on the line.
And they have the money to do it. That's what I mean. There's more flexibility for them to do it. I don't know how much flexibility Tennessee has to make a lot of changes.
Yeah.
But he won't be the centerpiece of that offense anyways. Why would you make him?
Yeah. I think Tennessee is on the verge of superstardom. They have such a great team. They almost made it to the Super Bowl last year. They have a decent defense. They have a pretty good offense. They have a great running back. You throw Tom Brady in there, he's not going to need all that much. I would say Miami would be great because they have the most money under the cap, and Tom Brady could just go in there and be like, all right, we can sign 3 or 4 free agents. Great, let's do it.
But there's just a lot of rebuilding there. I just find it
I don't think so. I don't think in the NFL it takes that long. I think you could do it year to year. I think there's teams that come in, they have a terrible year, and then if they're on the right path and they stick to their plan and they have a good coach, it just takes a couple of pieces. The quarterback alone could make a change in 3 to 4 wins.
But
just having a good quarterback right there.
Well, the most recent report is there's not as many teams chasing him as we think there is. So that's the other thing too, is that we're thinking.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I think there are teams. I don't think there's going to be teams who was there. There's some reports out there like the New York Giants. I'm there's no way they have their rookie quarterback there, or second year quarterback.
49ers.
The Colts, they were saying, I think they're happy with Jacoby Brissett. The 49ers is a different case because they could be looking at some kind of trade there with Garoppolo. But I see Tennessee needing a quarterback. I see Miami needing a quarterback. I see the Bucs needing one. And there's one. I can't see any of those teams just being we're just going to go with whoever we end up drafting in the draft. It's if we have a good enough team and we think we could win and Tom Brady's willing to come to play for us, absolutely we'll take Tom Brady for another year or 2.
Yeah, I just feel like that's a big investment in a guy that's very short term. I mean,
I don't think he's going to, and I don't think the money is going to be, I don't think he's looking for the big paycheck, like everyone's saying. I don't think he's out there looking for $30 million a year. I don't think he's ever going to sign that. I think he's going to be in the $15 to $20 million a year range, as long as he has those must-haves where you can call the plays, contribute to the roster, and go to a decent team that can actually compete and win.
Yeah, but the other part of that's disturbing about Brady that again, I'm just being the antagonizer here about it, but the reports of him doing some type of movie production, like starting up his own, that I sent you as a message.
Yeah.
I just don't think he is as into football as we hope or believe Tom Brady is.
Well, I think he is definitely looking to the future. I think he's looking ahead. I think he really wants to build his TB12 brand even further. Granted, but I don't think he's looking at it saying, well, I need to go in and put as much time as I used to put into football because I've done all that. Like I know as long as if it's a completely new playbook, maybe that could be an issue. But if he's going to a team like Tennessee with Mike Vrabel, he's familiar with him, the guy from Miami, the old Patriots defensive coordinator there. He's going to go to a team like that. That's why I don't see him going to the Bucs with Bruce Arians. I don't think he has any connection with Bruce Arians there, other than the fact that they might be the most talented on the offensive side of the ball. And he might be like, hey, I want to put up big numbers. I don't think he cares about that. I think he wants to go and win one more Super Bowl. I think that's his goal throughout the whole thing.
But it's safe to say, based on your tone of this conversation, he's not coming back to the Pats.
He's not coming back to the Patriots.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Because even based on the criteria you're setting, if Brady is not focused on football like the way Belichick wants him, he's out.
Yeah. I think Belichick is willing to move. I think he's ready to move on. There's no way he's coming back to the Patriots.
So it is interesting. And I'm teasing my Buffalo friends. I would die laughing if he ends up in Buffalo. Because it's just like, all right, you guys took Drew Bledsoe. Let's send you Tom Brady.
Yeah, I don't see and, no way. I don't see
Buffalo. It's a young team with so much talent around them. Young running back. That's the dark horse if it comes out. But, I think Vegas has become a long shot. But I did want to share this. Was interesting. I heard this. Is the coach of the 49ers is actually responsible. I think of John Lynch because he's the president and GM, that he is responsible for player decisions, but it's actually the coach. And I was surprised to hear that the player, because he came from Washington, the player he wanted on his team before Garoppolo was Kirk Cousins. He wanted to sign Kirk Cousins. So much so, he passed on people like Mahomes as a quarterback in that draft because they knew they were waiting for Kirk Cousins. Can you imagine, what a kick in the ass that is? You passed up on Mahomes, and I forget who was in Mahomes' draft class. There was another good quarterback in that draft class, and he man, this is when you need Jarvis.
Lamar Jackson?
Was he in that same draft class?
2 years ago? Or no, that was 3. So Mahomes was 3 seasons ago. Lamar Jackson was 2 seasons ago.
Yeah. So I forget it was another good. Anyways, the point is he passed on Mahomes because he wanted Kirk Cousins. He ended up with Garoppolo. And now there's talk that maybe Garoppolo wasn't the right guy, and he might actually want to move from Garoppolo. Yeah. Holy crap. Talking about effing that up.
When you first heard that story, I was like, wow, there's no way they're going to get rid of Garoppolo. He just took him to the Super Bowl. He's a good enough quarterback. I'm starting to believe it more and more. I wouldn't be surprised if they did make an arrangement with the Patriots to trade off, get Garoppolo back to the Patriots, get Brady to San Francisco, where he was, where he's from. And I think if it was Tom Brady, if he was sitting here right now and he was 100% honest with us and we asked him, what team would you go to? If you had your pick of any team you'd want to go to, I think he would say the 49ers. That would be the team we'd want to go to. Yes.
There's a lot of talent. I don't know if they have any stud receivers. The Deebo Samuels is...
Well, they got my boy.
Emmanuel Sanders?
No, my boy.
Oh, Kittle.
George Kittle.
He might be right because he loves his tight ends. So that might be that would be an interesting. I'm trying to see who went Mahomes' draft class. Of course, Christian McCaffrey was in that draft class too. So, CMC. Anyways,
bad crush.
All right, so we'll wrap it up there. So I can't wait for the next podcast because
hopefully sports will be back in effect.
Sports will be back. Our Nashville trip has been grounded due to coronavirus. Yeah, we're stuck. So there's some good shows to watch. Hunters. If you want a boring drama, Ottoman. if you want to go to the Red Box, Knives Out. And while you're sitting and watching these movies, we'd recommend trying Sticky Toffee Pudding Ale. Yes. Enjoy it.
Yes, for sure.
All right, I'm gonna wrap it up there, Big Meat. Any closing thoughts?
No, other than believe me when I say if you want to watch another show because you're self quarantined and you need to watch something, watch Ottoman: Rise of Empires. You need to watch it.
Yeah, you better bring some. You're gonna be tapping into your supply of toilet paper after watching that thing. All right, so just as we close it up, we are now on Apple Podcasts, so you can find us there. You can find us on SoundCloud, and we are on YouTube. So check us out on all three. Try to give us a review on any one of those platforms. It would really help us out. And keep listening and stay safe, everybody. And we'll see you from our bunker of our next podcast.
Yeah, hopefully zombies haven't taken over by then.
Hopefully the end of the world didn't... well, geez, hopefully Trump survives this thing. He started sounding a little winded during his press conference. we might be down a president by the end of this podcast. All right, guys. Until next time, take care.